Hey, welcome back. Are you a potential brand new investor in the crypto space, particularly looking into Bitcoin specifically, or an existing Bitcoin holder, but you don't really know how many Bitcoin holders out there? And also, what type of Bitcoin holders are there? I mean, they can range anywhere between investors, individuals, companies, or even governments, nation states actually do hold Bitcoin. But you're not clear on the numbers and by which amount. So let's jump into the details, because I've found a great resource that I feel that is one of the best out there that addresses this precise question. Right. I found an interesting website called bitcointreasuries.com that actually lists out what's the amount of Bitcoin holders out there and the type of entities, whether it's a corporation, private or public, or a government, nation state. So you can see that this website actually curates this information on a regular basis. Up until the June 28th, you can see that there are 90 registered entities who currently own Bitcoin. And it's the total amount you can see is just over 2.6 million and the market value of $161 billion and 12.5% out of the 21 million fixed supply Bitcoin. You can see the categories are ETFs, countries, as I said, public registered companies, private companies, even Bitcoin mining companies. These are also tracked information. Under the category of public registered companies, you can see that MicroStrategy, so Michael Saylor and his team have done a fantastic job on advocating the need to at least dedicate a proportion amount of their corporate treasury into Bitcoin as an accretive appreciating asset over time. So that's what he's advocating for the other companies to do. So MicroStrategy is leading the way, just over 226,000 Bitcoins. And the way you can actually corroborate this information is there's a couple of links to do with filings and news. So if you click on one of those two links, you can see effectively it's 226,331 Bitcoins under MicroStrategy as of that date, the 28th of June. And you can see that this website also keeps track of additional accumulations of Bitcoins. Michael Saylor is continually buying into more Bitcoins. That's his Bitcoin strategy, is to accumulate as much of this crypto asset as he can into his corporate treasury. He values and appreciates that Bitcoin is the best performing asset out there. And you can see there are other types of companies out there. Marathon Digital Holdings, one of the main Bitcoin mining companies. They themselves hold just under 18,000 Bitcoins, followed by Tesla, which is an automotive player, as you know, just under 10,000. Got Coinbase, 9,000. Interesting enough, Coinbase, as with every type of crypto exchange, what we have seen is more people are starting to offload their held assets in these exchanges into colder wallets because it's more secure. And given the crackdown on the likes of FTX, where the financial regulators, in this case the US Securities and Exchange Commission, forced them out of business because of some dwindling affairs by the CEO at the time and so on. So in order to mitigate that potential risk of default and crackdown on these exchanges, that trend is continuing on, is to offload the crypto held assets on these exchanges into colder wallets. Not to say that Coinbase will be shut down, but I mean that's the trend that we are seeing. And you can see some other. This list is actually growing by the day of new corporations that are following what Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy are doing, which is to reserve a proportionate amount of their corporate treasury under fiat, whether it's US dollar or yen or euro or sterling, into Bitcoin. Another new one that's been brought into the fold is Semler Scientific. They're a healthcare company, pharmaceutical company. This list is growing by the day, and to different types of industries as well, which is interesting. The next category is governments and nation states. So you can see these are just a handful. Just be wary that the governments are not really into the business of publicizing what their reserves are for national security reasons alone. But there are many more countries not listed on here that actually are Bitcoin holders themselves. The US, they've got 207,000 Bitcoins. And you can see it here as a reference website that corroborates that information. It says that in the case of the US, the majority, if not all of those Bitcoins are through confiscation from organizations in the country, high net worth individuals, for whatever reason, whether it's through criminal activities or for whatever reason that the government have took upon themselves to confiscate that amount of Bitcoin, which is quite a lot, into the sovereign reserve. And you've got China listed on there, the UK, Germany. It's fair to say all of these governments here have done the same thing. It's usually from confiscation or seizing Bitcoins. El Salvador is the exception, because as you know, or you might have heard, that El Salvador was the first nation state to make Bitcoin as a legal tender. So they can use Bitcoin in the country for things like buying products and services, whether it's a coffee or a car or a property. They're the first nation state in the world to have legalized that. I personally wouldn't use it, at least for my own financial goals, which is mainly to generate intergenerational wealth. I'm using it more as a store of value rather than as a medium of exchange. But anyway, I mean, El Salvador have paved the way, and I'm sure that in the medium long term there'll be other governments, particularly those regions where the local currencies are, highly devaluating against the dollar, found in that same situation, might follow suit with what El Salvador has done. I think it's just a moment of time when that will actually happen. And then you've got some other private companies listed out there, and ETFs. ETFs is very interesting. It's like Bitcoin has reached an important historical milestone. It's like a way of institutions owning a proportionate amount of Bitcoin through their funds, the ETF funds, into the various companies, whether it's BlackRock, Grayscale, Fidelity, and so on. ARC21 Share, which is one of the first ones who have opened this ETF with Bitcoin, and the first believers and drivers of Bitcoin in the investment asset management space. So this is interesting. And again, this growing by the day. It's not just the US have actually registered these ETFs. You got Australia, you got Hong Kong, and many other spot Bitcoin ETFs, including Ethereum ETFs, being authorized and approved by the local jurisdictional financial regulators. So again, this list will be growing and is set to continue. Well, that's the end of today's episode. Hopefully by going through that website, you can see that it is continually evolving and growing, whether it's in terms of numbers, whether we're talking about public companies, private companies, nation states. I'm seeing, because I periodically review this list on a frequent basis, and I can see the list is growing as the level of adoption of Bitcoin rises over time. And particularly given this scenario where, let's take this year for instance, there's ongoing elections happening around the world, whether it's in the UK or in France or in the US in autumn, and the tendency is to hand out candy to their electorates to win their votes, which is going to be pretty much revolve around printing more money, which will devalue our savings even more. Well, it just makes Bitcoin more attractive asset to save part of your wealth into that asset in the medium long term moving forward. So if you enjoyed today's episode, please don't forget to hit the like button, and if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to this channel, because I regularly post some high quality and interesting videos that could be of interest to you. So until next time.